I guess the health of humans is inextricably linked to the health of our environment. And that's not surprising when you think about it, because humans are part of nature. So scientists have recently found that the kind of safe limit for nitrate in human drinking water is the same as what's safe for the ecology of rivers. And it sounds pretty logical when you realize that humans are animals too, and we're all just part of nature. But it seems to be something that has been forgotten in our political and economic culture, that we are dependent on nature for our very survival, that water is literally life. And that is something that's well established and acknowledged in many indigenous cultures, but seems to definitely have been forgotten in our current political environment here with the new Luxon-led government. Will, you have been filming this documentary. You sort of alluded to the fact that you've been meeting a lot of people. You were off in rural Canterbury over the weekend filming a documentary about people's experience and concerns about water contamination. Do you think that people on the ground understand this connection between healthy water and healthy people better than our political leaders realize?
Yeah, I think some of the political leaders are in for a bit of a reality check, because there is an increasing awareness of the state of our water in Aotearoa and the flow-on effects from that, whether that be the impacts it has on our biodiversity, which is in crisis at the moment, the impacts it has on drinking water. People are becoming much more aware about this. It's been interesting ever since I was offered actually this role at Greenpeace, and almost every conversation I've had with people in Canterbury where I mention what I'm doing and what I'm working on, they'll hear, "Oh, water, nitrate." That'll keep you busy, because people get it. People they've switched on to the fact that the dairy industry essentially is polluting our water, and there's certainly certain communities that are more aware of it than others, and those are the communities that are essentially impacted by this in their day-to-day lives. Folks in places like Oxford and Darfield, other parts of rural Canterbury, where their water is testing for elevated levels of nitrates, almost up to the MAV. In some areas, if they are on a private bore, it could be above. They're getting increasingly concerned about the safety of their drinking water.
Hey, Will, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to ring my little jargon bell. I think you're going to have to tell people what the MAV is before we can continue.
Good call. So the MAV is the maximum available value level. And that is set at 11.3 milligrams per litre. That's set by the government, and that level was set back in the 1950s, essentially to protect folks from, or babies from blue baby syndrome. But it doesn't take into account the more recent science, which we'll talk about in a moment, that tells us that nitrate levels much below that level could increase the risk of colorectal cancer and preterm births. So there's some increasing concern around rural Canterbury, but it's important to note as well that a lot of these folks who are more aware of it now, have become more aware of it, they're Pākehā. Tangata whenua have been, in a lot of cases, banging their head against the wall in terms of the degradation of their freshwater for decades, and they've been up against, in some cases, up against a brick wall, in other cases just treated with outright racism. It's getting easier for those folks, some of the folks that we spoke to, but there's still an uphill battle there.